Welcome to the True Sports Physical Therapy Podcast. Dr. Raegan Langeliers is with us today. I'm thrilled to have you on because I've been chasing you like crazy to get onto this podcast. So thank you so much for making time to join us. I know you're super busy.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad we got to find a time to sit down and chat.
Hell yeah. Now, tell me what you're so busy with. Tell everyone listening what you're so busy with.
Well, I kind of have a odd schedule. So I married a professional baseball player. So he's playing all over the country. So that's kind of why I started my business being virtual. So I can, stay with him, kind of travel a little bit, work from wherever works for us. So that kind of has my schedule just a little bit more hectic than it normally would be. But yeah so that's
okay. So first of all, I'm a baseball geek. So tell me who he's playing for.
He plays for the Oakland A's. So we're out in California right now.
And what level?
Major leagues.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So he's still a younger guy, but yeah, we're having fun.
Okay. You said this is his what year in the bigs?
This is his second full season. So he got called up in August of 22.
Okay. And how long you been with your husband?
We've been together since college. So I think that was 2017, 2018. Yep. So made it through PT school, minor leagues, all of the stuff. So yeah.
That's amazing. Well, congrats to you guys. Congrats to him for making the show. This is not where I wanted to take the conversation. We'll come back to Raegan Langeliers for sure. But tell me what it's like from like the rehab perspective, watching your husband go through the minors, and then to make the show. What was the rehab and strength and conditioning like as he went through this process?
Yeah, so it's really interesting for him. I feel like the minors to the bigs is very different. It's a little more structured. You kind of, you kind of have to do what you're told then, but now it's very much more individualized. So like he has his own schedule, like he does his own stuff. Like he's a catcher, so knees obviously big deal. So catcher to catcher, they even have different things that they do. So it's just very much so more individualized, which has honestly influenced how I treat as well. Because again, it shows me that everyone's rehab, like it should not be cookie cutter. It needs to be very specific, very individualized to the person.
Okay, but tell me about the crap show that is the minors and how terrible the rehab and life was in the minors. Because
it's crazy.
It's crazy. I work with a bunch of big leaguers. One great one, a guy named Ryan Lavarnway, who's like a hero of mine. So he spent forever in the minors, finally cracked in with the show and lasted like 10 years in the bigs. And he had a great analogy. He said it's like going from janitor to CEO like overnight. Right? Like all of a sudden you have money and you're at the Ritz and you're on private planes. But before that, you're literally losing money. Like I work with the guy in the White Sox organization. He said in AA, he spent more than he made while playing AA baseball. So he just lost money and he's still close to the show. So what is strength and conditioning, rehab, recovery? What's it like in the minors? And then how did you help your boy get all the way to the show?
So, I mean, it's crazy. The lifestyle is crazy in general. I mean, they're, on buses and they're driving hours for games. And it's just like recovery. You're already kind of like in a pit to start because you're not really getting much sleep. And, you might not be eating the best of food. You kind of just eat whatever's there. So just like all of the lifestyle factors are already kind of against you. So I felt like for him, he had to take it into his own hands. It's kind of like if you need something, you have to like kind of make it happen. Whereas it's just like a silver platter when you're in the show. Like they want to help you. They're like, obviously they want you to be healthy in the minors, but it's just on a bigger level. So, really just keeping him consistent was kind of what I felt my job was, like kind of encouraging him like, hey, like it's gotta be like, you have to like be in charge. Like no one's going to advocate for you. If you really need something. Just going through the minors. So yeah, just really saying like, hey, I need this. This is what I need, or going and looking for it on your own.
And what were some, because there are no resources. So what were some of the golden nuggets that you shared with him as a medical professional while he's kind of on his own? Because I think that relates really closely to what you do now, where you'll get people from all over the country setting up appointments with you to do virtual PT, and you got to make do with what they have in their bedroom or in their gym or whatever. So how do you approach that with him in the minors?
Yeah, really it's limited. So really keeping it as simple as possible, like what works for you. Like he learned that like more is not more for him. Like he's very a minimalistic guy, even when it comes to like his maintenance work and stuff like that. So just finding really what works for you. He would get to the field early. He'd hop on a bike, just like warming up, like keeping things simple, warming up really good. Like I just feel like consistency was his biggest thing, like picking 3 like modalities, even if it was, just the foam roll, even though I'm always like, don't waste your time on the foam roll, but he loves it. So like mentally for him, like that might be something that, fine, like sit on the foam roller for 10 minutes, like do your thing. Because it's a lot of baseball, it's a lot of games. So just whatever can get you mentally right, and whatever feels good on your body. Sometimes for him, it was just about like just making himself feel good because he has like a very physically demanding position. So yeah, just staying consistent, keeping it simple, doing what works for you. I mean, because options are so limited, resources are limited in the minors.
Yeah, it's wild. Okay, so how long have you been out of graduate school?
I graduated in December 22, so just over not even 2 years.
Yeah, so approaching 2 years, and what would you say the biggest impetus to you starting your own company and doing things virtual? What was it? What made you do it?
Really, I went through clinicals and I didn't love it. I honestly was not, which, everyone's experience is so different. But
that sounds like my experience.
Yeah. I love that. I was like, dang,
yeah.
Oh, that's just not what I had in mind. Like I knew that there was more I could offer people. I had a background as an athlete. I had great physical therapists in college as well. That really influenced my decision to go to PT school. And so my clinicals just didn't really line up with that. So I just felt like there was more I could offer. He also was a big influence in that because we were getting married soon. I was like, do I want to sit back and have a 9-to-5 job that I don't love? Or do I want to build something that I can be proud of, that I'm excited to go to every day? And that kind of fits better with my lifestyle. And that's kind of how I stumbled into the virtual scene. But yeah, that's kind of how I.
Okay, but let's dissect that a little bit. What did you hate about your rotations or your affiliations, whatever you guys call them? And could you have done anything to change that?
I felt like I really enjoyed my CIs, my clinical instructors. I always they were great, but it was just the model that it was in, the insurance model. It's really difficult to give people what you feel like they need at all times. I was very lucky in my final clinical rotation was more of a one-on-one. I got to see people for 30 to 45 minutes solo, which is more than most people can say. But I just felt like it was more kind of just kind of going through the motions. I saw people twice a week. It was just very monotonous. I didn't feel like I had a good grasp I didn't feel like I had a lot of control over what they were doing outside of PT. So it's really hard to truly give them the progress. Right now, whenever I work with people, I have full reign over their training, over their rehab. I know what they're doing, where I have so much better communication. Whereas I felt like I was getting an hour a week to try to make a big change that kind of didn't feel possible for me to make. So that was the biggest thing for me. I just felt as a student, I also just kind of was kind of not copying, but if I saw them doing that, that's what I was going to do. So it just felt like I wasn't growing or learning. I was kind of going through the motions and just kind of checking off boxes.
Okay, so I totally get that. And I think that's why our profession gets a terrible rap, because 90% of PT looks like exactly what you just described. If you were to give Raegan Langeliers advice while you were going through that, what would you tell her to try to get more out of those experiences?
One, I mean, just like I was saying, with rehab and athletes, taking it in your own hands, be your own advocate. I felt like I should have, looking back, I'm I could have started a lot sooner. Since then, I've done mentorships, I've done continuing education, but at the time, in my mind, I felt oh, I have to be all in here. I shouldn't go look for my own like learning opportunities. But that is the biggest thing I would say to myself if I could go back, and the students now, like it's never too early to start looking for outside resources and learning and growing, especially in if you have like a certain niche that you want to get into. I also, that was another thing, I was working with kind of an older population, just not a population that I knew I wanted to work with long term. So it was really hard, just like for my own interest, to really be passionate about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah,
so
so definitely just other
yeah.
resources.
And so what you're really saying is you should have taken the True Sports ACL course while you were a student. So to all those students out there, take it
Yeah,
now, because it's
totally.
really important. And I would say I made the same mistake. Like when I was going through it, is it's like, you're preparing for the boards. So that's your body of knowledge. You're trying to kind of apply that body of knowledge, but I wasn't looking outside of that textbook to really apply those interventions. And it sounds like kind of that's where you were. What about with picking your rotations? I'll tell you real quick, like my experience with that. So I went to University of Maryland, and they said, do not, whatever you do not try to set up your own rotation. We will handle that. You tell us what you want to do, and we will take care of you. And that put me surrounded by geriatrics. Like I couldn't find an athlete if I wanted to. I did eventually set up my own manual rotation, kind of behind their back. Good thing they never listened to this.
Mhm.
And so I set that up in New York on my own, kind of made them think that they were doing it, but I set that up. What was it like for you? Where did you go to school, and did they give you any autonomy to set this up yourself?
Yeah, so I went to Baylor. I think you've had Megan,
She's
Dr.
a
Maisie on
stud.
Instagram
She's
on
a
your podcast.
stud.
She is an absolute stud. Yes, she was vice president of our PT class. Like she's a PT I look up to then and now. She's amazing. But so we were in the same class at Baylor. So it was kind of an in between that. So they definitely took the reins and we were able to kind of give a couple options that were in our area, and then they kind of chose from there. I got one of the rotations that I kind of sought out, which is my first one, and I really loved it. And I really enjoyed it as like a first time, like dipping my toes into a rotation. But then my second and third, I think were kind of a little bit more random. It also was kind of soon after COVID and all that, so options were a little bit more limited. So I was just kind of happy to get whatever
Right.
I could. I had some classmates who didn't have rotations until like the week before, so it was more of just like get what you get and just be happy that you have somewhere to be in the next few months. So yeah, I definitely felt that was another thing looking back. I'm like, I wish I would have advocated for myself more and really, done more digging and, pushed for certain
Yeah.
things a little bit more.
Sounds like
Um,
there's a theme there, right? You wish you would advocate a little bit more for yourself. And I think that's great
Agree.
advice to the student or even the young PT to advocate for yourself. I'll say now on our other side, we're going to have between 30 and 40 students come through True Sports this year. And so now that we're on this side of things, I love getting DMs from PTs around the country saying, how do I become a student with you guys? And them taking the reins, because that triggers us to say, we'll reach out to your school, we'll set it up. I'll pretend like I never heard from you because I don't know what your school's rules are. But if you're interested in coming to True Sports, I'm interested in having you here. And that kind of kickstarts it. I wish I would have done more of that. It sounds like maybe you could have done more of that in hindsight, but hindsight is 2020. True Sports Physical Therapy is growing like wildfire. We have 14 locations, soon to be more. We are throughout the state of Maryland. We're in Pennsylvania, in Lebanon, in York, Pennsylvania, as well as in Delaware, in Newark and Wilmington, Delaware. Like I said, so many more practices to come, and we always need outstanding sports physical therapists. Our treatment style is unique. We are one-on-one with your athlete for 45 minutes every single session. You do the entire treatment, you do the entire evaluation, and they are in state-of-the-art facilities where you have room to run, throw, and jump, and really get your athlete all the way back to on the field and better and stronger than they were. We also have outstanding salaries, comp structures, bonus abilities, 401ks, as well as a very strong continuing education offering, including in-house continuing education. And we're looking for you. Now is the time, as we are growing like crazy, Just shoot your resume over to Yoni, YONI, at True Sports PT, or shoot us a DM and we will hit you back. We will get you in for our unique, tried and true interview process and really make a determination that this is the right place for you to grow your career and get your athletes better than ever. We can't wait to hear from you. So, did you always know you were going to be a business owner?
No, I didn't. I always, had the idea. I feel like a lot of PTs are like, oh, one day I want to, start my own thing. I want to do this. So I've always saw it as down the road. Once life kind of settled down, I had a lot more experience, more mentorship, things like that. So I didn't really, while in PT school, really feel like I was going to start something right out of school. That's kind of just, how when life throws things at you and opportunities arise, I kind of just grabbed them and ran with it. Because originally I started it after boards. It's kind of how I got into the online space. I kind of started a fitness business online and was just kind of like coaching people. But then I kept finding people like, they knew I was a physical therapist. And obviously when you're even as just a coach or a personal trainer, like you need to, be able to work with people who are, have aches and have pain. So I felt like I was doing that a little bit anyway. So it really morphed itself kind of back towards more of a rehab, like fitness forward type platform. That's kind of how my story kind of started.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's working. So walk me through the business plan for your online PT business.
Yeah, so my business plan. So is this more of like how
do you have
how I like kind of find clients?
Yeah, do you have an actual business plan? Like, did you set that up before you started seeing patients? How important is that?
So it is so important. And that's something I didn't start from the beginning. So I kind of I was working in the online space. I knew I wanted to kind of, turn it more towards rehab, not just like fitness coaching and workout plans and things like that. So I kind of had to backtrack. And because once you start taking on more clients and you get your name out there, if you're not like really structured and set up, it kind of just becomes a hectic free for all. And it's really good to have a plan and for your clients to know, okay, this is how this is going to go. This is our relationship. This is what you can expect from me. And it's good for me to have expectations too. So yeah, I definitely had to back it up a little bit. I had to clean up my systems, like all the back end things. Because especially as a new grad, you're trying to, grow as a physical therapist and learn a lot. And then you're also like, wow, I didn't take business in college and I didn't learn all these things. So it's kind of like learning a new skill set. Finding a great business coach, someone who can give you guidance and direction is so important if you're going to go into the online space, even if you're not a new grad. But that was definitely something that really helped me.
Well, I love that you did it so early because I did that much later in my career. Once like the business was already rolling, I'm like, what the hell is a profit and loss statement? I don't know what that looks like. What does forecasting look like? I don't know how to do, I don't know what any of those words mean. And by the way, in college, I would have run from that. That just would have terrified me. So you took your step back early. Give me more specifics. How do you find a business coach? What did they teach you? What do you wish you would have done from the onset? That's 3 big questions for you.
Okay. Yeah. So I originally started with just like, I found like an online like fitness coaching platform that helped me kind of kick things off really quick. It was more fitness focused. I felt it was very helpful in getting me in the online space, but I didn't feel like I learned a lot about my business itself. So I was kind of just like on the online space. Everything was kind of messy. I started working with Dale Bartek. I don't know if you know him, but he's in the online space.
PT? Is he PT or fitness?
He really helped me. He is a PT.
Dale? Hell yeah,
Dale
I got to
Bartek.
get him on the pod. But nice little shout out for him because he obviously did something that worked for you.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, for sure. He was really instrumental in helping me kind of back up and say like, okay, let's make this a little bit more professional. He helped me to kind of create a website, kind of start working on like funnels. So I do like all of my like back end stuff through Kajabi, which has been really helpful to keep everything in one place. It really shows you, your profits, your loss, all the big business terms. Taught me a lot about marketing myself, kind of structuring like how to, get clients, how to kind of convert those like leads into like more like sales, like actually selling programs and, keeping clients as well. So I have more of like an overarching like month to month plan, like how I want to go about like how many clients I want to take in, to kind of keep myself at a level that I want, like how much income I want to be making each month. So it really just helped me see things more as, instead of just like one big like yearly, like, okay, what happened? Like, now it's been 12 months, what's happened? Then look at it more as, month to month, like, how are we doing? Do we need to do more here, less here? But yeah, so it's been great. That was great working with them.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. What kind of capital does it take to get that off the ground?
I think the initial investment working with him was, I want to say it was around, I mean, his prices might have gone up. This was a while back, but I think it was about $5,000 to just he was kind of starting, like, he kind of used me, even though I already had an online space, we kind of used it as like kind of back from the ground up, because I really did want to back up and kind of like refresh and restart, and make sure things were going smoothly.
Yeah. Okay. So $5,000 there. And then what other kind of investments did you have to make in this thing? You have to get like a certain type of camera. Did you have to get Raegan Langeliers gear? Do you have to, like, what do you have to do? What other costs are there?
Mainly the costs are, obviously it's the overhead so much better, or, than if I was had a physical business. So really you just have to pay for, I use Stripe as a payment. So it's like a monthly payment there. I use Everfit as my coaching platform. So that's another monthly payment based on like how many clients you have. Let's see, I use Typeform for like intake forms and whenever clients come to me to fill things out. So there's just a bunch of monthly costs, like smaller, like the Everfit one's a little bit bigger. I do a yearly just so I have like the capacity to take on more clients without having to like up the charge every month. But a lot of the other things are more like $10, $15 a month. So in the grand scheme, it's not a ton. I think it's worth it. I've tried to use the most like seamless platforms that work together. So Kajabi's been very helpful in doing that, because it kind of keeps it all in one place.
And then do you need a videographer?
Eventually that's something I want to work to, but right now I just do it all on my own. I use like either like a DJI camera or just my own phone for a lot of what I send to clients and all of my programs I create. But other than that, I just use like I use Zoom for all of my coaching sessions. Just
okay. That's awesome. So barrier to entry is somewhat low. I mean, that's really awesome to hear. What about advertising and marketing? Do you do any digital marketing or advertising?
So right now, my Instagram is the only form of marketing and advertising that I use. I don't do any paid ads or anything like that yet. That's something that we talked about possibly returning to in the future, if I was looking to, scale and grow a little bit more. But yeah, right now it's just all social media. And
then
marketing.
First of all, who runs that email marketing for you? Do you do that?
Just myself, yeah. Right now it's just kind of like a one-woman show at the moment. Hopefully in the future, as things in personal life kind of slow down a little bit, I'll look to scale and like add a coach and grow my business from there. But right now, yeah, it's just me kind of doing
well, your husband's in the big leagues. I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. You're going to get to Vegas. What is it, next year? Within the next 3 years? That's not where things slow down. So buckle up, Raegan. So those things aside, tell me what is the horizon of this thing? What do you want to do with the entire platform and business?
So really, I just this is what I've talked with a lot of my business coaches in the past about, is I just want to get really strong in my current business. I'm not looking to grow right now just because life is really hectic, and I want to be able to give the best product and really have my clients feel like they're getting the most out of their investment with me. So I'm kind of keeping it where it's at right now, just really refining my systems, refining my processes. It's like the onboarding process, just making things feel so much more clear and smooth for myself and my clients. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. It's just, really refining the onboarding, offboarding process, taking time to do more Con Ed, learn a little bit more, grow as a clinician myself, because I feel like this is kind of like a whole nother side note, but just, when you don't have that built-in mentorship from, like your first time job or anything like that, like I really have to search out those opportunities, because the world of physical therapy is obviously always evolving. New research is always coming out. You have to be a forever learner in this profession anyway. So just especially when you don't have that built-in mentorship, you just have to really search it out. So I've been trying to, carve out some time to make sure that that's a priority as well.
You sound like a business owner. This is awesome. So as you continue, it's awesome. As you continue along this road, do you want to hire others? Like, do you see that as a way to grow the business? Do you just want to be able to expand your bandwidth, whether it be via technology or other things? What's your dream with this once you get stuff ironed out?
So, yeah. So I feel like initially, like in the next 5 years, I really want to grow my own bandwidth and feel comfortable, like, taking on more and through technology, like using those resources so that I can maximize like my potential before adding on anyone. I feel like it will be a few years before I add a coach because I want my business to be like rock solid. I want to be able to bring someone in and say, this is how this runs. Like this is, my processes.
How are you going to know you're there? I think that's something that entrepreneurs struggle with. Yeah, it's something that I struggle with massively is like how that I started this whole thing thinking I just want the best place to treat. So how do I construct a business model, be able to keep the lights on so that I can keep providing awesome care in person? And then all of a sudden I'm like, crap, I can't keep up any time. Like I kind of got slammed with it. So I wasn't really sure when I was ready to bring someone on. How are you going to know when you're ready?
That's something that I've been asked multiple times in the past few months. And that's probably something else I need to start marinating on, internally on my own. Because I am someone who's like perfectionist mindset. Like, it's never like just how you want it to be, which is been the big push. Like that's one thing I regret in starting my business is like, I didn't, push in certain things because I was like, oh, I'm not ready. My product's not ready. My business isn't good enough. But, you're never, it's true. Like you're never ready. You're never there. So, like a lot of what I've learned is you kind of have to just jump in at some point. So I feel like one day I'm just gonna have to say like, and like, this is good enough. And this is like where my business is right now. And, it won't ever be like the most perfect version that I'm like shooting for. But honestly, by bringing someone else in, it could, take more positive steps forward, be able to help more people, be able to deliver better care, because my mind won't be, just scattered on volume more. I always say quality over quantity, which I feel like is so important in rehab. So I always want to keep that level of care that they feel like I'm not just like running through clients, but more so like giving full effort.
That makes total sense. I would say some unsolicited advice would, and so, as a guy who sucks at sleeping, something that helps me sleep at night is understanding what is my target to know when I need to bring someone on or when I can bring someone on. So that's how many visits am I doing? How many visits is a clinic doing that they can support another full timer? And then before I bring on that full timer, what is the onboarding process? We have a COO that works with us, a guy named Tim Stone, who has been unbelievable with creating our onboarding from a hiring perspective. What's it like to learn how to be a true sports PT? What's the interview process for us to test whether they'd be a great sports PT, a true sports PT? What is their first week, second week, first month, first year? What does it look like? And how do you march them through it? That's when you say marinating on, I think was your term. I think that's something that would be awesome to marinate on, because then now you have more immediate targets versus when I feel like it. Numbers don't care about your feelings, right? So what are the numbers you're chasing in order to help you sleep at night? At least that's the way I look at it. Take it or leave it. So it sounds like you have an awesome head on your shoulders and like a great vision as to kind of where you want to take it. Yeah. Let's get a little bit clinical, because when I'm scouring the Raegan Langeliers Instagram page, I see you have an uncanny ability to give patients or athletes options for a given goal. So we want to target your quads. Here are 1,000,001 ways to hit your quads because it's going to work differently for everyone. Or maybe you don't have a hack squat. Maybe you need to be using a foam roller up against the wall like you put on one of your posts, stuff like that, so you can isolate it, right? So talk to me about the terminal knee extension, the TKE. This exercise, Raegan, is my least favorite exercise in all of rehab. However, it looks like it's your favorite exercise. So convince me that I am wrong about the dreaded TKE.
So TKEs, I wouldn't say it's my absolute favorite, but I do think it has value. I think it's a good tool. Do I think it's a good tool for, late stage knee pain, things like that? Probably not. There's way better, we can load it. There's different ways to treat that. But for someone who has trouble either activating their quads, I have a lot of girls come to me and are like, I'm just so hamstring dominant. I feel like the TKE is a great way to be like, you know what, here, like you're physically seeing your quad fire. It's a good primer, kind of just more mentally for them to be like, okay, like my quads are working. So I like to use it more as like a mental, like, okay, our muscles are firing. Let's use it as a primer before we really get into, the meat and potatoes of like our workout or our rehab. So I feel like it has time and a place. It's definitely not for everyone, or for every even like knee pain client, but I think it has some value.
So that makes sense. So you like it because it gives you the tactile cue posterior knee so that they can pull it back. My patients love using their glutes and hamstrings to accomplish that maneuver, right? So how do you coach them out of that? And I think this is exceptionally challenging when you're doing it virtually. So how do you handle that?
Totally. Yeah. So just in general, working virtually and not being there hands-on to physically, grab the quad and say, this is what I want firing. I've just had to really learn how to, I've had to be really good at, cueing. Can't tactile cues, so really have to use your verbal cues. So a lot of times I really like, to say push back into the band. I like to put them in different positions as well. So sometimes that normal TKE, just standing banded, it's really easy for, those glutes to override to use other things, but I like doing it in a quadruped in different positions, playing around with my clients and giving them options, even in their workout. Say, try these few different ones. Like, which one do you like? Can you feel your quads more working? Give them some options because everyone's different and everyone compensates differently too. So that's been helpful for me, just kind of giving them options, letting them play around with certain things, and seeing what works best for them when we're doing our eval versus
so that makes sense. And that's something that I would do if they're in person with me for sure. I can totally commiserate, especially going through COVID, like how many words I wasted trying to teach people virtually was very challenging for me.
Yeah.
One thing I love to do is put e-stim on the quads early on. If someone forces me to do a TKE, I'll put stim on the quad to do the TKE. Is there any, is there any scenario where that patient has e-stim where you can like work that in? I guess the more overarching question is, how do you handle rehab sessions when you don't have access to simple things like blood flow restriction and stim, which are just hallmarks of what we do in office?
Totally. So I've had only 1 to 2 clients who actually have access to e-stim just from previous rehab experiences, and we have utilized it in those situations. But usually the theme is I don't, and I really have to work with what you have. So whenever I'm having an initial consult with clients, I'm very honest on if I feel I can help them or not. If I really think that they would truly benefit more from blood flow restriction or they need that e-stim, especially with post-op clients, I'm very honest on, my how I can help them, or if I feel like if I need to refer them to an in-person PT. So that's just from the get-go. I'm not just going to take anyone and everyone who comes in because I want to offer them the best care. And if I don't feel like I'm the person for that, I'm 100% okay with saying that and sending them, referring them to someone who I feel like can. But then, so a lot of my clients are not as post-op. So it's either they had an ACL surgery 2 years ago that just hasn't clicked, hasn't gotten back to full. They didn't have the resources to really get them back to true back to the field, like they kind of just stopped at the table and didn't really have that bridge between their rehab and their like performance goals. So that's kind of where I sit. I like to see myself, I'm kind of like the gap. So I like to kind of pick up where like their rehab might have left off and really scale them from there.
Okay. What do you think about this? This is a crazy idea that just came to my head while you're talking. Why don't you reach out to our eStim provider? Why don't you reach out to our BFR provider and offer this to your patients? And they're coming in to see Raegan Langeliers because she's a stud. They want to work with you. You think it would help them to have STIM or BFR or whatever. Here are a list of providers that I don't know if the word that I'm looking for is providers. Here's our list of our partners. They'll drop a BFR cuff at your place. They'll drop eStim at your place. By the way, there's probably a way you can work it where you get a cut for referring them, but they're somewhat affordable and you can put it through insurance. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think that actually would be a great option. I'd have to kind of dig into it a little bit more because I do not work at all with insurance for what I do now. So I probably have to tinker with that, like how that would work. If I did get a cut, which I wouldn't, if I didn't, that would be totally fine with me. If they could have access to that, because it would just make my life a little bit easier.
And expand, it might expand your patient population, right? Because now you can see the post-ops. Now you don't have to worry about it. You never have to send anyone to True Sports because you can handle it.
Yeah, totally true. No, that's a great thought. I'll definitely dig into that.
I could also see even like bands or like gym equipment. Just have your preferred outlets that you'll handle it and they handle the monetary side. Okay, worth thinking about. So okay, you convinced me, I guess, a little bit on TKE. I'm still not a TKE guy because I think there's just so many ways to cheat. But I'm sure I've used it at some point in my career. So can you walk me through what it looks like when a patient finds you and then your entire structure of eval, cost, and then how long they stick with you?
Yeah. So usually, again, my marketing is all through Instagram. So that's how almost all of my clients have found me, either through Instagram or through word of mouth. So I have a website and the link in my bio. They'll go fill out a form, set up a call. So the first call is just a 30-minute initial consult. It's just a good time for us to kind of dive into what they're dealing with, why they are like searching out some guidance in their rehab, what their goals are. And then we kind of just chat and talk about, what it might look like working together. I explain to them what my evaluation process is like, what my program is like, just what the length of time might be initially. And then we set up a call time for an evaluation and we go from there. So the evaluation is usually 45 minutes to an hour. It's just like it would be in a normal physical therapy setting. We sit down for the first chunk and just kind of chat. We just chat about, their past injury history, their current injury, what hurts worse, what makes it better, all the factors surrounding that. I love to dive into more of lifestyle factors like their sleep, their nutrition, their stress levels, things that are like kind of the behind the scenes, but huge impactors in recovery and rehab. We spend half the time just chatting about all those things, really getting a good picture of where they're at, where they want to go, goals, their current activity levels. So all those things really help me to formulate the rehab program, what they need out of a rehab program, what might be lacking. But we also kind of dive into strength, mobility, kind of do range of motion screening, all of those things depending on what they're coming to me for. So with all of that, I then tell them kind of like what the plan is going forward. And on that same call, we kind of chat about if they're ready to move forward. I totally skipped on that. So usually they buy a package in the initial consult call, and that's when we set up our eval and do all of this going forward.
Consult is free?
Yes, the initial consult call is free. It's really just time to chat and see if, we're a good fit to work together because, again, like as of now, I like to kind of screen out and make sure it's something that I have like the resources to help them fully with, if it is more, acute or if it is post-op or something like that. But yeah, then we chat about timeline, pricing. I like to start all of my clients off with a minimum of a 12-week commitment, just to give me time to truly help them set a foundation for whatever they're dealing with and scale back to performance if needed. And then after that, they can either resign or we go month to month, depending on, what we chat about.
Is it visits over 12 weeks, or it's just a 12-week block? How often are you seeing them?
So it is a 12-week block. So how I structure it, we talk about on the consult call as well. I do weekly check-ins, which is kind of where I figure out if I need to modify things, if I need to progress things, regress, whatever I need to do. And then we have monthly milestone calls. And so this is a time where we retest a lot of things. We kind of chat about, refocusing on goals, making sure we're moving in the right direction. So the weekly check-ins are the biggest thing. With making progressions and things like that. And then the monthly milestone calls is like when we're looking just like this face-to-face, retesting things, asking questions, going through more of like our visits. So yeah.
And are the check-ins synchronous? Are you on a call with them, or that's like they're giving you information?
Mine are asynchronous. So it's all through my platform. I use the EverFit app. So I send out a form every either Friday or Sunday, depending on what we decide. And so they get that back to me. And so I have everything kind of modified if needed, changes made by that next Monday. And then they have access to message me anytime through the app. I love when they send me videos. We do a lot of form checks. So even though I'm not there, I feel like I have a way better grasp on what they're doing and even their workouts, because most of my clients send me videos of all of their
terrible form.
Yeah. So so I definitely have, and I love that because I keep tabs on it. We can track progress, even on performance and form and things like that.
That's awesome. How are you testing range of motion? Like what tests can you go through virtually?
So a lot of what I do range of motion wise is in my eval. So I just look at a bunch of we look at hip mobility. I take pictures and I record the session so I can always look back at it. So it's not as much about like the exact goniometer measurement, but it's more comparing photos. Also, usually a lot of the range of motion things put them in positions that are more aggravating. So it's also about like symptom tolerance, things like that. So just things I track. Usually it's client to client based on, what they need, but I do have a good structure going in that I like to look at. And then we'll kind of dive into more like special test type movements as well if needed.
Hey guys, quick pause and a quick shout out to this new masterclass that we just launched here at True Sports Physical Therapy. Myself and Dr. Tim Stone put together a masterclass of ACL rehab, and we call it From Table to Turf. And the reason we call it that is because it's going to teach you exactly how to get your athlete all the way from post-op day one with the nitty-gritty of regaining all of that range of motion, with the tips and the tricks that we use here at True Sports Physical Therapy that gets our athletes better, faster, and stronger. And that's early. And then how do you progress that athlete all the way onto the field with a ball in their foot or a stick in their hand or whatever their sport is, and teach them how to accelerate, how to decel, how to change direction, all the mechanics that go in there. What drills do we use to get our athletes exactly where they need to be back on the field and even better than before injury? And I want you to sign up for that class. Now, you can find it on our website. You can shoot us a direct message and just say, hey, send me the course. It's right now on sale, so make sure you sign up now. It is fully accredited to get you all of your continuing education hours. Sign up for the True Sports Masterclass ACL From Table to Turf. Thanks, guys. Do you think it's ever worth it to use like open source Google stuff that can actually measure ranges of motion markerlessly?
I've been playing around with stuff like that. But sometimes I think we can get a little too focused on the number and not as much on the function. And that's something I prioritize a little bit more is, how are we feeling, like having that good communication? Like, what does this feel like to you in comparison to keep taking those notes? So sometimes I do feel like it depends on the client. Like sometimes I'm like, it would be nice for like more of a post-op client to have like the perfect specific measurements. Like definitely that's why I'm kind of diving into some resources like that. But for a normal client who's, having some hip pain, having some knee pain, I don't feel like it's always excessive. Like, I don't think it's absolutely needed in all situations.
Yeah. I mean, I think the bonus is like, you're talking to a guy who picks up a goniometer like once a month. Like I don't use it a tremendous amount, but perhaps virtually, at least you can freeze frame things or at least keep data and say, hey, you're so much better now versus when you were. Now, okay, so they're filling out forms once a week. You're adjusting their program once a week. You're doing another Zoom call monthly. You're doing 12 weeks, so you're getting 3 calls. How much does that cost?
So for the initial 12 weeks, it's going to be $1,200. So I either work pay in full, I do monthly or biweekly payment plans as well. But yeah, that's the initial $1,200 for 12 weeks.
And how many patients can you handle at once?
So right now with traveling as much as I am, I'm keeping it between like 10 to 14. So hopefully in the off season when we're in one place, not having places to be, games to be at every night, I'm hoping to up that a little bit closer to 20. But right now I feel comfortable at that like 10 to 14 range.
Do you go to every game?
Just about, yeah. Just because he's still young and I don't want to miss anything important. So he had his first Grand Slam last month and I wasn't at that OA series. So I was like, dang, never again.
What were you doing? Why were you not there?
I don't know. I think I had, a wedding or something like that to be at, but yeah.
Okay, that's crazy. And does the team take you out there or you're like on your own Southwest schedule?
We're on our own. Yeah, we're on our own flights. The team plane's not big enough for all the wives. So we're just making our own flights. That's another thing. And I have 2 dogs. So I'm always trying to either fly with them or I got to find a sitter or something like that. So we'll live behind the scenes.
Yeah. So, and do you have like a travel buddy? Like there are other wives that you're always traveling with?
Yeah. So I have, we actually live with another couple, another player, a pitcher and his wife. So we usually travel together, which is nice. And then I have a couple other girls who we all kind of live in similar areas. So travel, we at least try to pair up.
Okay. Is it a starting pitcher or a reliever?
Long relief.
Long relief.
Yeah.
Okay.
Long relief. Yeah.
Is his preferred catcher your husband? Because it would be awkward if it wasn't.
Yes, it is. Yes, they're good friends. Yeah, they actually were on the Braves originally together and both got traded. So we've known them for a while.
Okay, good. Glad that was vetted.
All is good there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you can handle 10 to 14. What's interesting though is, Raegan, you've kind of answered the question as to when you're ready to at least support another clinician. Also, what's fascinating about your business model, not that you asked, but I will tell you that you can like ease someone in far more easily than a guy who's in brick and mortar, right? Like you can find an awesome PT who wants to make some extra bucks on the side and pick up 1, 2, 5, whatever they have bandwidth for.
Yeah.
And if you can get really tight around what the service is that they're providing and teach them and coach them appropriately, you could scale this thing like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely it. That's why I'm always like, okay, we'll wait till off season. I'll figure things out. But yeah, I really need to jump on that now because I do feel like it would be easy to onboard another coach now that my own onboarding process and offboarding and like the meat of my business is really set now and it's flowing well. I do think it wouldn't be a huge task to onboard one. I think it would be a lot smoother than what I have in mind. I'm just always, you're always pushing it away, like wanting to make it a little better before you really dive in.
You'll get past that. I guarantee you. Okay. So you looking outside in with some inside knowledge, if you were in charge of the Oakland Athletics, what would you change about the way they do rehab, strength and conditioning, recovery?
I guess I'd say I make it a little bit more individualized as well. For my husband, he has, with catchers, you kind of have to let them do their own thing because their bodies just go through a lot every single day, especially what he's playing. I think he's going to end up playing like 140 games this year, catching 9 innings. So with him, I wouldn't change anything about it. They kind of let him do what he needs to do. Like if he wants more, like they're with it. But I feel like with the pitchers, it's very like one way, like, oh, you need to do arm care. You need to do this. And I feel like even for pitchers, like they need to be more individualized too. Like more is not always more. Their arms are also, being put through so much, playing such a long season. So maybe just allowing it to be less like fitting guys into the box and kind of, I don't want to word it like, because sometimes they do. It depends on the team probably too, but sometimes it just feels like, they're kind of not forcing, but they want guys to do certain things. And, everyone's so unique. Everyone's arms are so unique, especially with pitching styles and all that. So maybe just individualizing things a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, like, there are organizations that do it well and use technology to leverage their ability to do that. So
Yeah.
I know there are organizations that will go on Whoop scores, or they'll go on force plate analysis, where you walk into the weight room, you get on the force plates. That's going to dictate what you're doing today. It doesn't take a strength coach to say, hey, I'm going to write you a program based on how you feel. It's, if you fall in this metric, this is what you're doing. If you fall in that metric, that's what you're doing with leeway. I think that's a good way to go about it. Do you think the Oakland Athletics still look like the Moneyball Oakland Athletics, where they're making like players buy their own sodas?
No, I don't think it's that close to the movie, but yeah, I mean, I have no complaints, and my husband doesn't either. Whatever they need, they have. And sometimes I think social media, especially with like the drama of the A's moving and everything, it can be a little bit dramatized, whatever that word is. But no, I mean, they have no complaints.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Awesome to hear kind of the backstory of how you got to where you are, and then even like what you would change and tinker with. I think that's awesome. Give me some parting words of wisdom to the physical therapist who is considering a virtual practice.
I just say jump in. The time's never right. You never feel ready. But, you just got to put your best foot forward, jump in, and kind of learn as you go, really. And the pieces will fall into place, and you can refine as you go.
Yeah, I think that is awesome advice. Raegan, I learned a ton from you. So thank you for your time here. I will even considering doing some TKEs in the future with my patients. But don't but don't hold me to it. Well worth the wait. Thank you for making time for us with your crazy schedule. Thanks for educating our population. You and I will be in regular touch. You got a bright future.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. I'm honored to be on this podcast. I love listening to y'all. Learn so much from your page and your podcast. So thanks again.
Thanks, Raegan. Appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Sounds good.
See you guys. Bye-bye.